Hello everyone, I am Aditi from the Institute for Transportation and Development Policy. Today we will be looking at the importance of analyzing your site as you develop your conceptual designs for the pilot interventions and the step-by-step process for gathering data. A site analysis is used to check the feasibility of the design interventions by analyzing the street at all the deal breaker points of the pilot cycling corridor and the neighborhood. For the site analysis, we recommend that you carry it out during peak hours, at the morning and in the evening, at all the deal breaker points of the corridor and neighborhood. During the site analysis, it is important to carry the site analysis checklist, a large map of the corridor and neighborhood with all the deal breaker points located, measuring tools, cameras, as well as requisite permissions for documentation. First, let's look at how to document your site. You can use photos, videos, maps, and sketches to capture how the street is currently being used and all of its various activities. While taking photos and videos, it is important to capture the entire street scenario, including the footpath condition, all the on-street parking, any bus stops, vendors, obstructions to cycling, as well as things like the traffic patterns and movements of vehicles, road surface, any difference in terrain, and the characteristics of the street itself. While taking photos and videos, it is important to keep in mind that you can take photos while walking or cycling to and from either directions of the street. Also capture issue-specific photos such as obstructions to cycling or haphazard parking. Identify key vantage points without any visual hindrances. Aerial photos also are very useful because they reveal unused road space and traffic patterns. They can be captured through the help of drones or from the terrace of a tall building. You can also use simple sketches to draw sections and to document how the current right of way is being occupied by different street activities. Use labels and make simple sections and sketches on site. When you have your base map, we recommend that you use colors, symbols, and comments to make observations on the map. You can mark things out like parking, bus stops, conflict points, or any other observations on the site. Next, let's look at the various things that you need to document during your site visit. The first is the right of way width, which is to measure the total width of the street that is available for all users. Initially, start by measuring this width through digital tools such as OpenStreetMaps or Google Maps. To verify this on site, measure the width from one property edge to the other. Mark the ROW width at locations where there are significant changes, where it reduces or increases. Find the average width throughout the stretch, the maximum and the minimum width, and especially the width at all bottlenecks. Next, it is important to mark out the condition of the footpath. On site, remember to observe the following. Is there a footpath provided? If there is it continuous and walkable? Is the width sufficient for people to walk on? Are pedestrians actually using the footpath or are they using the carriageway? If you notice that pedestrians are mostly using the carriageway, map all the activities that discourage them from using the footpath. This could be shop extensions that reduce the walking space. It could be parking that serves as encroachment on the footpath. There could also be some vendors or other obstructions like hoardings or utilities. Please be sure to mark all of them out. The next very important thing to mark out is the on-street parking situation. Mark the width occupied by on-street parking as well as the existing parking and no parking zones that have been designated. Observe the following on-site. Is there a high intensity of parking? And is the parking haphazard? If so, please be sure to mention if there is double parking. What is the orientation of the parking? It could be parallel, angular, or perpendicular. Is cycle parking provided? Also notice if there are parking lots in and around the area which are used to their full potential. Vendors are an important part of the whole street design process. It is necessary to also integrate them into the design. Map all the vendors through the section and the width that they occupy in the overall right of way. Street elements also influence the design process. It is important to identify the location of bus stops and any other informal public transit drop-off and waiting zones. Mark existing mid-block or other pedestrian crossings. Also see if any traffic rerouting is taking place through temporary or permanent barricades. Make sure to mark out the location of these barricades and the time of the day. Intersections are a complex part of a street design process. It is necessary to identify movement patterns of different road users and conflict points at the intersection. First, at an intersection, mark the movement of different users, of vehicles, cyclists, and pedestrians. Next, mark out conflict points which may arise in large unsignalized intersections. Observe if pedestrians and cyclists can actually cross the intersection and if it is safe for them. If not, mark out what their desired line of crossing is. There could also be refuge islands and unused space that might be used for other activities such as parking. This also needs to be identified. At intersections, it is also important to do a volume count. The volume count should take place for all kinds of vehicles, including cyclists and pedestrians. The signal timings and the cycles should also be captured. The count should be taken at peak hours for a duration of 15 minutes. It can either be taken on site or it can be recorded through a video and counted later. You can find further details in our document, Better Streets, Better Cities. Finally, identify other issues which may serve as an obstruction to cyclists and hinder their movement. These could be dustbins that are improperly placed, hoardings which might be illegal, or other utility infrastructure. After you have captured all of this data and gathered it from the site, the next step is to analyze and refine your design. You might get certain very important inferences from the site analysis. Analyze all of the information and make these inferences for the street scenario along your corridor and your neighborhood. In this particular photo, we can see that although there are two carriageway lanes, only one is being effectively used by the vehicles. The reason is that the other 50% is currently being used by parking. There is also an active retail edge, and the footpath is further taken over by vendors and by parking. This forces pedestrians to use the carriageway and often collide with cyclists. Cyclists and pedestrian crossings are also infrequent, and mid-block crossings need to be marked. From the site analysis, use the inferences to further develop and refine your designs. Engage in discussions with all relevant stakeholders and gather their inputs to build support for the whole process and for the challenge. It is also important to gather their support to resolve issues like on-street parking. Next, coordinate with government agencies to shift utilities that might serve as an obstruction. We will be sending this guide and the site visit checklist to all cities. We hope it will help you as you develop your conceptual designs. Thank you.